What I wanted to talk about tonight is our sense perceptions. And we've done it at the beginning of the programs often, where we, rather than point to the mind and try to quiet the mind and think good thoughts, or some mental image that we repeat to ourselves to sort of quiet the mind a little. Rather than doing that, what we've often done is look to the body. So we can look to the body's breathing, sense of touch, as in sitting in the chair, a sense of hearing, maybe an outside noise. So these are just direct sense perceptions, right? We were taught in grade school, I guess, that there were 5 of them, right? Sight and hearing and taste and smell and touch. Okay, so in themselves, these abilities of this body to sense the outside world don't discriminate, right? They're not saying, well, I don't want to, the ability to sense it directly before it goes to our mind for analysis, but the sense, let's just take the sense of sight. What enters our eyeballs aren't discriminating. Whatever's in the visual field enters the eyeballs. The eyeballs aren't saying, well, I want this to come in, but not that. And it doesn't have that ability. It has whatever's within the eye's ability to see within that field, it receives. Now the mind filters most of that out. It's interested in this. The rest of that, I'm not going to pay any attention to it. So the mind has that filtering mechanism, but the sense organs themselves don't. Sense organs themselves are open, available, receptive to whatever stimulus is being received by them. They're not even actively going out and seeking the stimulus. They're just receiving it, right? Just open, available. Sounds like spiritual terms, right? Open, available, receptive, non-discriminating. So this is why they're helpful as a practice for us. If we're just sitting or walking, also is a really excellent way to use this technique in a way, is to just be present with the sensory input that we're receiving. Prior to the analysis, prior to deciding, well, I like it, I don't like it, it's similar to what I saw yesterday. Well, I know what kind of tree that is. I used to have one in my backyard, on and on. It's just seeing, feeling, hearing what is being received by this body. This body is a receiving organism. It's how we exist in this world. And when we really, our image is that, I'm on this side of the skin and I'm looking out at everything else that's outside, out in the world, and I can see all that, see other people and objects and stars and roadways and everything. I can see all that outside what I am. I can hear things outside. Right? But the reality is we don't experience any of that except through our 5 sense organs, right? It's our only means of experiencing the outside world. Yeah? Right. So in some sense, I mean, we're living in this, skin-tight black box, and we have 5 input channels, like 5 plugins on the back of your computer. One is vision, one is hearing, one is touch. And it's through those 5 channels that we experience the entire world, all of it. The sense organs are so good at what they do is that we have that virtual reality experience that the world is out there, that we're walking around in that outside world. But the reality of it is that it is all being experienced within us, within each of us. So in a very real sense, this isn't philosophy, or when we think about it, it's actually what's happening is that the entire world, everything that's ever happened to us, every newspaper that we've read, every show that we've watched, every sunset that we've seen, all of that happens within us. Right? And the amazing thing is through those inputs that are, communicated, to our brain, is that our brain sort of reconstitutes it, Like you have frozen orange juice and you mix it up with water, and then you have real orange juice, puts it back together again so that it appears that we're looking at this 3-dimensional world and interacting with it and experiencing the whole thing. So the brain receives this information, filters out the vast majority of it as being uninteresting at that moment, which is useful, right? If we're walking in the jungle and we hear a tiger lurking in the bushes over there, we want to focus on that and nothing else. So that's what the mind is doing. It's looking at, sort of choosing all the time what's most interesting to it. Actually, it's choosing what's most beneficial to it, right? I like this, I want more of that. I'll go to the movies to get that visual and auditory input that I really enjoy. But that entire experience is recreated in our brain as a visual 3-dimensional world. Amazing. But what's even more amazing is that there is something that notices that, right? This awareness of that image, that pattern that appears in our brain, what recognizes it, what sees it, what notices it is that awareness. So again, you could say that that entire experience not only happens within what we are, but that what we are is the awareness within which all of that happens. So without the consciousness, none of that is experienced. There could still be the body, there could still be the neurons, there could still be the brain, but without the consciousness, none of that would be recognized. So the consciousness, the awareness is fundamental. Right? So it sounds, when we say it, it can sound like we're just sort of breezing over it, like it's, the entire world happens within what we are. So let me do it more step by step here. So when we say, let's see, we have one of the birds that we see not as often as we used to see, but we still see occasionally, is indigo bunting, small bird, like about a sparrow size, but it's this iridescent blue. The males are just this iridescent blue. So the question is, what color is the bird? You know, what we see, we interpret as blue. But what's actually happening is we don't actually see the bird, right? We never see the bird. What enters our eyes is the reflection of light off the bird. So when it's daytime and sunlight hits the bird absorbs some of that radiation and reflects others. So what it reflects is what we interpret as the color blue. We don't know what it's, you know, we have to presume that the other colors, the other radiation has been absorbed, and what's left is what we see. So again, what color is the bird? Well, hard to say, right? And if it's nighttime, if it's absolutely black, dark, no moon, cloudy sky, absolutely dark, and that indigo bunting is there, what color is it then? No light, no reflection, no seeing. You know, so we can see that what we interpret as that particular color that we take to be the bird's color is dependent on light being present, light hitting the bird, and our eyes being such that it can register that reflected light. So what our eyes can see, our whole color span, the color of everything is, you know, falls within a really, really narrow range of this electromagnetic spectrum. It's what our eyes are able to see, and we think that that's the way the world is. The world is of those colors. No, it's what our eyes see because of the evolutionary capacity of the eyes to see this range, and that electromagnetic spectrum, the wavelengths of within the visible light we see as red, green, blue, purple, etc. Okay, so the colors, what we take the outside world to be, is dependent on the design of our eyeball. You know, and then we also have how the mind filters it out and interprets it and compares it and likes some things and doesn't like others. So that's further modification. Right? But it's useful to see that what we're actually experiencing that we presume is outside of ourselves is actually occurring in total within ourselves, within this body mind, and at a deeper level within awareness itself. So I know I got a little scientific-y there, but the purpose of that is to really pull us back into our bodies. Too often we think that I'm separate, I'm here, and then the world's out there, and then I go out into the world and try to figure things out there. But one of the benefits of this practice, well, there are several, but one of the benefits is that it brings us back home. It brings us back into our body-mind, where we can look more directly. We're not distracted by the 1,000,001 things happening outside all of that interesting, fascinating things that our mind loves to latch onto. You know, so it's a way to just bring us back to ourselves, right? Back to, you know, looking within, you could say. We're looking within because it's all happening there. You know, we can see that it's all happening within this body, mind. Amazing, right? The other thing that this practice does of just focusing on the simple, direct perceptions is that it gives our attention something to do without directly confronting the mind. So rather than saying, okay, I'm sitting down to meditate, mind, behave now, rather than that confrontation, we're giving our attention something to do that is non-conceptual. And that is just paying attention to the direct perception. And through that, we can see this is how reality is showing up. Prior to the filtering, interpretation, judging, liking, disliking process that happens in our mind. So just by sitting with its simple perceptions, the breath, sense of sitting, sense of the temperature in the room, maybe if we're outside, we are smelling the springtime air, earthy smell of the backyard. Mind doesn't like that, right? Mind, it's simple, right? Just staying with those perceptions, just directing the attention away from thought, not violently, not like not like thought is bad. It's just like, okay, mind has a usefulness. It's real good at some things, not at all good at other things. So what it's good for, it's available, and we don't lose that capacity to use it. But what we're doing is just sort of gently directing our attention at perception. Perception happens in the present moment. It happens here. It's open to whatever's being perceived. It's not the perception itself is not judging what it senses. Our mind may, but the perception itself doesn't. We can just stay with that one simple practice. Mind likes complex things. It's good with that, If we give it a 10-step thing to do, it'll be on board for that. But if we just say, well, just stay with the perception as it shows up, without turning it into a concept or comparing it or wanting it to be different in any way than it is. Simple, right? I'm not saying it's easy, but it is simple. Right, so we're just being with what is, what shows up. Prior to the mind wanting to intrude itself, right? The mind always wants to come in and, be the judge or the parent or the policeman, or the priest. No, we don't need that for this practice. We can just be with the perception itself. So it's just another way to access this state that is simple. It's already happening. We're not manufacturing anything. We're not imagining anything. We're just noticing what is present, what shows up in its utter simplicity. And we have the opportunity to recognize that what notices it is awareness. That awareness can directly notice these perceptions prior to the confusion that our mind likes to insert into the process. So, it sounds Sounds easy. It's not easy, it's simple. So, you know, the difficult part is to stay with the simplicity of it. But it's necessary to actually do it to have value, not just take it on as another concept. Oh, I get it. Perceptions are really a useful path. Great. Okay. I've got that. I'll put that in my spiritual idea folder. No, what has value is to actually spend time with that. You know, the mind will get bored with that practice. Great. One of the tricks of the mind, right? I mean, we've all done it in meditation. The easiest way for the mind to regain control is to make us feel sleepy in meditation or bored, you know. I just want to be out of here. Or think, well, now's my opportunity to think of really creative things that I've never had time to think about before. So great, I'll use this time. Mind will come up with all kinds of different ideas. So this is, again, just coming back to the simplicity of it. You can say, okay, just see the games that mind plays. It's actually one of the real useful aspects of in any meditation process. But the important thing is to actually do it. That's what has value. So the great Zen mystic Yogi Berra once said that in theory and practice are the same thing, but in practice they're different. So it's important to actually dedicate ourselves, you know, create the intention that I will explore this. I'll explore the sensations of my own body and see them in their unadorned state. They're just their natural state, and I will be willing to be with that in that simplicity. So that's the practice.